Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're sorry we had a little break. There was a bout of sickness between me and Mitch. But welcome back to the 12 Talk podcast. This is our Seahawks mid-season roundtable. We have got some fantastic guests, some of whom you will have seen on the pod before, one of whom you've not, but we've been threatening to bring him on so often, and he's finally found the time away from work. Before we get into it, Mitch, how are you feeling now, mate?
Yeah, mate, I'm a lot better. One thing I didn't tell you about is that I put my back out this week as well, so I've had a real, combination.
It's falling apart.
Things going on. I am 100%. And I also had a job interview this week, so I've had to kind of pull myself together, get through that, not show any weakness, and wuss out of my interview, and then go to bed every night at 6 o'clock. So it's been a rough ride, but you've been through much the same, I think.
Well, yeah, a week of what we suspect was COVID, and then I was asleep pretty much most of the day, trying to get up, do some work in the morning, going, I can't do this, going to sleep, and then having to contend with a 4-year-old and everything else that came with that. But I'm back on the mend, and I've had a great day. Apart from, as people may have seen on the TikTok, I woke up in a hotel room this morning with water that didn't work, and when it did work, it came out brown. So I've been the great unwashed whilst driving home all day, which has been fantastic.
Nice.
Before we get into this, obviously, we're going to have a fantastic roundtable. We're hopefully anyone who is in the comments, by all means, leave your questions, your comments. Feel free to share this as well. The more people we get involved, the better the conversation will be. And we've got some fantastic people coming on as well. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to the UK Seahawkers. We are the UK Seahawkers official podcast, and we're always very thankful and proud of that. If you'd like to join the UK Seahawkers, by all means, it's £12 for an individual, £20 for a family membership of 4. You get free goodies, access to social events, 10% discount at the club shop, and there's also a chance to win game day field passes. And this is what we got this year. Absolutely fantastic way. I've got to make sure I'm on the right way. Yes, there you go. Pointing in the right direction. This round table is kind of like the Brady Bunch for me as well. I'm just going to be pointing at different directions, hoping to God I've got the right person. And big shout out to some of the 12s that we met as well. Well, myself and my little brother Harry, whilst we're at Wembley, Twickenham. No, that's for me next week. That's the other odd shaped ball. And finally, big shout to our charity partner, the Robin Cancer Trust. You can see them above here. You've still got time to get in for the big ballsy run. It's 10k, 50k, or 10k, or 100k that you can choose to run or walk if you are interested in raising money and awareness for testicular or germ cell cancer or ovarian cancer. I pointed the wrong way. It was going so well. Hit that QR code over there, and you can join that. It's a fantastic cause, and we'll be hearing from them a little bit later. But without further ado, Mitch, shall we hit this theme music and bring on our guests?
Let's do it.
Excellent. There we are, back at it once again. And I'd like to say a big, big welcome to our roundtable co-hosts. Now, some of them you will know. So we have Mr. Garry Swain. Right, I'm pointing. There you go. Far end over there. And right below me, Mr. Jonas Meister of the German Seahawkers, who you will have seen on our podcast and the Hawks Zone Rundown as well.
Yes.
International, mate.
I'm coming around, yeah.
You're getting around, mate. So yeah. Don't proclaim that too much, though. And then you will see in that very bottom corner, Ben. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, good to be here.
So, Ben, everyone on this call at the moment, everyone on this pod is a member of our Discord. If you would like to join, by all means, So this covers anyone's face. And you can join that Discord. It's the pin post in our X. It's a constantly growing and evolving beast as well, which is the king of the Discord is this man right next to me, my co-host Mitch. That one with the awesome hand art.
It's not difficult to point at yourself. It's great.
Yeah, it's just me who has a difficulty. All the gesticulation going everywhere. So today's episode we called Cuts, Confusion, Combinations, a Comeback, or a Catastrophe. We're going to go over all those points today. We're also going to be fielding your questions. So any of the viewers, people watching on X, on Twitch, on YouTube, if you have anything, fire it in and we'll put it up on the screen and we'll talk about that as well. But there's a lot of other things that I think we need to address. Mitch will be the master of the question, master of ceremonies today. And we'll just see how it goes. By all means, if there's anything we say that you guys don't agree with or want to add to, you let us know and we will happily have that conversation as well. Right, Mr. Mitchell, what have you got for us first?
Yeah, I think we'll go with recent news, I think, and I just want to get people's take on it. So I'll ask this question. You tell me if you were surprised or not surprised, and I'll be surprised if anyone wasn't. So Dodson cut. Starting with you, Josh. Surprised or not surprised?
I've had a lot of time to think about this. I'm going to say yes, although the caveat to that yes is purely because he was the most experienced and effective, if you want to say, linebacker that we had. But there was a lot of issues regarding his coverage and his decisions, which I can see was why Mike Mack went. So yeah. Yes and no. There you go. As vague as you like.
Love that. Well, yeah. Garry, what about you? Surprised or not surprised?
Very surprised that he was cut. I wasn't surprised that if he'd have been dropped, benched, but I was surprised that he was cut. That seemed quite ruthless to me. I was like, oh, crikey, wow. So that was surprising. I have to say, I didn't see that one coming. I don't know about anyone else, but I certainly didn't.
Okay, what about you, Jonas? Surprised or not surprised with the Dodson cut?
Definitely surprised. Still a bit surprised because we were speculating about what had happened if there's some previous incident or some incident in the bye week or something, and we still haven't found out because the Seahawks haven't given any explanation. And Tyrell Dodson spoke with he's with the Dolphins now, with the Miami media, I think today. And he says he doesn't know why he was let go. And obviously we're speculating, like just said, about scheme fit, coverage. The run defense wasn't good, which was basically his responsibility in the second level of the defense. And still a bit confused, but pretty ballsy move.
Yeah. I think Ben might be having some technical issues with his headphones not working. Ben, if you can hear us, give us a nod. No nod. I think he's still fixing it. So we'll skip Ben out this round. On that comment about the Dodson interview, was it today or yesterday? He said some really interesting things because he seems quite upset about it. But I'm not. One thing I'm not surprised about is that we cut a linebacker and gave him absolutely no explanation or notice because, Dodson's been with us half a year. We did that to Bobby Wagner and he'd been here, long enough to become a legend. So if Wagner got nothing, I'm not surprised Dodson got less. Yeah, I know, still a sore spot. For me, I was surprised that we did this mid-season because the numbers in the linebacker room are they're small numbers. We're not well stocked. We're certainly not well stocked in terms of leaders, and we're definitely going to miss what he brought on the field. However, I do think that what he was going to be asked to do now, I after our trade for Ernest Jones. Is it Ernest Jones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
After we traded for Ernest Jones, he was going to be forced into playing more will linebacker, where he had struggled this year. So rather than keeping a square peg in a round hole for the rest of the year, I think we're now going to lean on players like Drake Thomas, who are a specialist in that spot, and we're going to see Tyrese Knight getting more snaps. And I think we've basically moved more towards higher upside, more development of the youth on our roster, rather than giving snaps to someone that potentially wasn't going to get a contract at the end of the year. So I think that's probably the way we've gone. Sounds like we haven't explained that very well to Dodson, because he's in Miami talking some trash. So I think he's one upset lad.
Also,
apparently John Snyder has a bit of a reputation of doing that, doesn't he? He doesn't particularly do exit interviews very well, apparently. Just ask Bobby Wagner and
everyone else has been. Ben, are your headphones and your mic working now? Yeah, they're all in. Go on, give us your take on this.
I was a bit shocked as well. I mean, we brought in two linebackers that were meant to be our guys this year, and they're both gone by the bye week. Baker and Dodson. I think it shows maybe we panicked and rushed over the break, and it's kind of left us now, I think, a bit kind of short-handed. We've got a very inexperienced linebacker core now. They may trust the players, but there's a lot of work there, I think, still to happen.
Do you think? And we'll elaborate on this with the rest of the roster. But do you think it's? And let's bear in mind, when Pete Carroll first came in with John Schneider, there was 100 odd roster moves, and this is very much a, try it. If it doesn't work, get rid. So we've not just got to keep. It's that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same different result. And obviously, if Dodson's not working, and we've got halfway through the season, they've gone, look, it's not working. I don't think it will work. He's not the type of linebacker I need, and that's Mike Mack's forte. He's gone, move him on. We've got Ernest Jones, who's someone that we were after anyway, and that Mike Mack likes, and he's obviously had a hand in drafting Tyrese Knight. Do you think he's now gone, blow it up, and then let's see how the rest of the season goes? Because at least we're going to be giving Tyrese Knight and Jones those reps together. So part of what we put in the title of this pod is about combinations. And if that's a combination he sees working going forward, then it's beneficial from a coaching point of view. It's going to be beneficial just to move on from what you're not going to use and start building with those. That's my take on it anyway. Just when I look at it from sort of the high coaching view.
Yeah, I agree with that, Josh. But it seems we're only blowing it up in one position group. You could easily argue that we could do the same on the offensive line, which has also struggled. I'm sure
we'll get to that.
So I see the thinking there, but why, if we're doing it in one position, why aren't we doing it in every position? That's just my take on it.
Interesting. No, it's interesting. I think we need to remember as well that Mike Mack knows linebackers as well. Like he does know linebackers, and I think a big part of retooling this defense needed to start with linebackers. And when you look at what we did in free agency, we really, more than patching up the O-line and more than any other position, we went and said, here is two starting linebackers, two guys with different skill sets. You looked at it and thought, that's Mike Mack deciding what he needs and getting it. But I do think, you might disagree with me, guys, but I do think there's been a little bit of recruitment via... it's almost like we've picked players based on PFF ratings. Because when you look at... Baker and Dodson were two extremely highly rated PFF players in different areas. You looked at their ratings and it really backed up the pickups in free agency. Pharaoh Brown was the NFL's top rated tight end. It's almost like they've gone, scroll down until we find a free agent. Oh, there's one, number 3. We'll take. It's I don't know how much they rely on those things. They probably don't at all. But when you looked at those ratings, it really backed up the players they picked up. In reality, we've seen barely any Pharaoh Brown, and both linebackers are off the roster. Laken Tomlinson, who was a Pro Bowl guard, what was it, 2 years ago before he joined the Jets? 3 years ago was it San Fran he got the Pro Bowl with? Doesn't look like that player at all. So I wonder just how much we've picked up players on past accolades rather than being genuine scheme fits for what we were building.
You're just taking away my surprise.
Yeah, well, anything
to do with? Yeah, I mean, I think what we have to bear in mind as well is that how late the coaching staff was hired and put together. The coach, the builder, the makeup of the coaching staff. None of them pretty much have worked together before, so none of them ever went to the scouting, the draft at all. None of them really got involved. The combine never got involved with that at all. They were sort of like stayed at the VMAC, I believe, where they were trying to sort of like build sort of like camaraderie and sort of like relationships together, which I understand. So I think we just need to take that into consideration as well. And I think that's one of the things that before the start of the season, I know lots of people were sort of like predicting sort of like a double-digit win season and everything, and I was always very sort of, oof, crikey, I'd love it. I think that'd be great, but at the same time, I was thinking, bearing in mind the inexperience and the lateness of the hire, I just thought, don't really see that. If it does, fantastic. And so far, it seems to be transpiring that it is very. They're still building. I mean, the coaching staff are still coming together. They're still trying to implement not only their philosophy but also their schemes, etc. And I just think these things just take time. And I know I've sort of harped on about it before, but I do think we just need to be patient with them, give them time, and then we'll see. I think we've shown glimpses both of offense and defense and special teams of where this team could go to, but it's just putting it all together.
Jonas, anything to add before we move on?
No,
because you stole his thunder already.
Okay, well, a little change of direction here. Let's briefly talk about what we've seen from our draft class, because we've briefly talked there about Therese Knight, and we've danced around the defensive line a little bit with what we've said, and obviously our first round pick was a D lineman. So I'm going to quickly go around the room again. I want all of you to just give me a grade based on what you've seen from our rookies so far this year. So Josh, start with you again. What are you grading our 2024 class at?
Are we going the A to
F?
Whatever, A to F. C.
Yeah. Garry?
He took my thunder. I was at C as well. Because I just don't think there's been too much impact at the moment.
Ben?
Yeah, I'm pretty on those lines. I think there's a lot that haven't really done anything yet, so you got to go middle of the road. I think C, or maybe towards D.
I'd say so too. Yeah,
yeah,
without being too harsh, because they're rookies. But on the other hand, they haven't had the impact they should have had by now.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag. I think there's a couple there you could grade fairly high based on the capital we spent. For me, it's probably. If you were to break it up and say plus, and if you look at the top end of our draft, you're probably going sort of C- to a D. So it does middle out around a C for me as well. But Byron Murphy's been impactful without filling up the stat sheet. I think we've been a far better team with him out there. That's the best you can really say. If a rookie is making you look like a different team, then that's more than you can ever really hope for. The Haynes situation pains me. The fact that we've already released a draft, one of our drafted corners already, pains me, because that shows.
And we're starting in an undrafted free agent as well.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Job or Jobby, or however you pronounce it. I think it is Job. I just like it when people call him Jobby, if I'm honest.
That's the Brit in you. Yeah. And so that's where I stand. So, Jonas, talk to us about your grade here. I mean, we could go to anyone who graded it C, but what's your reasoning for that middling grade?
I'd say the draft class has been pretty top heavy. So obviously there's Byron Murphy there, who was injured in training camp and during the season, so he hasn't had much traction. But I think the jury's still out on him, because he's 22 years old. He has a huge ceiling, and he hasn't hit that ceiling yet. So he's going to work with Mike McDonald for years to come, I think. And we haven't seen the best of him yet, luckily, because if you've seen the best of your first rounder by half a season, it pretty much doesn't verify a first rounder. But I think we have to give Byron Murphy time. Obviously there wasn't a second rounder, which like you said, which pains me and is dragging down the note, is obviously Christian Haynes. I liked him a lot coming out of the draft, and but the coaching staff has been pretty harsh on him, and that says a lot about his strength, literally, because he sort of doesn't have any. That's why he's being replaced by Anthony Bradford. And the Mike McDonald said that you got to earn it to start, and obviously he hasn't started. Having to look at Tyrese Knight, I think there's obviously the Dotson and Baker thing. There's a lot of I'd say promise, or the Mike McDonald is expecting a lot of him and trust him, because he wouldn't have done this move with releasing Dotson if he wasn't confident in the way Tyrese Knight can play. And then you have the other rookies. Nehemiah Pritchett is on the roster, but he hasn't got a big role in the secondary. Sato Lemea hasn't played a snap, I think. He's always been a healthy scratch. Obviously, DJ James has been released. And one of the bright spots, because I really like his story, is Mike Jarrell. Because he came out of a Division II school, and he made it onto an NFL roster, which speaks of the confidence the coaches have in him. Because they wouldn't have drafted him if they didn't see anything in him, and even though he would have even started is just amazing. And it's detrimental to the O-line, but it speaks to his ability to make a NFL roster coming from a Division II. So two good stories, and on the others, it's pretty obvious.
The others, not so much.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Ben, what do you think? What were your reasonings?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot I agree with there with Jonas. There's a lot of players that haven't in that draft class that haven't really had a chance to make an impact yet. I'm concerned that Haynes seemed to be a healthy scratch in the last game, considering he was our second pick of the draft. One player that I think Jonas didn't mention that I think's doing all right, I think he's stepping up, is AJ Barner.
Yes.
Obviously, the tight end. Mitch is a big
Sorry,
dog.
I missed him.
Each game he seems to be, popping up every so often. To say he's not like tight end one He seems to be someone with a bit of promise that can build a role in the future. But yeah, I think a lot of it seems to be, especially the later rounds, a lot were sort of projects for the O-line, and those projects don't seem to have really got going yet.
No, fair enough. Garry, you agree with what's been said?
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with Ben as well. I think the nice and Jonas about Mike Jarrell, but also AJ Barner. He seems to be potentially blossoming into something that looks quite promising. So fingers crossed he keeps improving, keeps moving forward, because it'd be really nice to have a really nice, good, reliable tight end that we can use. That'd be a shock, wouldn't it?
Do you know when we use them?
Yeah.
You go first, Josh. Then I'm going to add a little tidbit for AJ Barner, because you know he's my boy.
I said Mitch like a proud dad. If anyone talks about AJ Barner or Mike Morris in glowing references, Mitch would be like, call them. And fair play to you, mate. You did. I completely agree with everything that's been said. I think the AJ Barner story, the fact that he is keeping Pharaoh Brown, I think Pharaoh Brown's just sort of an afterthought now with the way the Barner's been performing. I think when it comes to Noah Fant coming back, it'll be Fant and Barner, and then you'll look at Brown or Brady Russell afterwards. I understand with this draft class, obviously, first round, Byron Murphy, a lot's expected of him. He had the injury which sort of stopped his development, but he has shown some really good glimpses, especially in the run game. The Christian Haynes conundrum is vexing me somewhat, because he was so high, and this is so Mitch and I had this conversation pre-draft, and I had Haynes on my big board, and Mitch was not convinced at all. He vehemently was telling me that he is not a fit for what we had or what we're going to have under Grubb. And I was like, well, I really like him. I watched a lot of his college tape thinking, if we can get a guard like that, fantastic. However, it's obviously transpired that he's not a fit right now. And the fact that we're having to rely on someone like Bradford, and I was high on Bradford coming out of college. I thought he was an absolute mauler in the run game. He's a people mover. His pass pro is still so suspect. But the fact that Christian Haynes can't win out against him with how highly regarded he was says a lot. We've binned off one of our corners already, and Nehemiah Pritchett's getting limited snaps, and he's looked serviceable. But then Josh Jobe has come in as an unrestricted free agent or undrafted free agent, and he's getting more snaps than him. I think we've said this draft class it's the first one they've had. They're not going to be perfect after this season, and we'll probably get into this afterwards. They'll have a better idea of what holes they need to fill with what kind of players. And I think this was very much a test the water. These are some of the positions we need. These are probably the best people available. Let's see what we can do. The next two drafts will really give us a proper direction of where this team's going. But I just don't think they've performed to their potential at the moment. Everyone was expecting, especially Murphy, to be contending for Defensive Rookie of the Year. In my opinion, he's barely scraping the top 10. Cooper DeJean, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, they're all up there at the moment. And it just seems like I think Murphy's a bit of an afterthought until he starts wrecking games. Hopefully the second half of the season he can come into his own. But that's kind of it. I stick with my C grade.
Yeah, I think we've all come up with good reasons for the C. I've actually got another question for us now as a group, which is also draft related, but it's not about this class. It's about next year. And my question to all of you, do you agree that this next year, this draft in 2025 is the most important Seahawks draft in 10 years? Josh, go. Yeah, agree or disagree? I picked on you here just because you looked immediately like confused. Not confused, cheers, but mate. Definitely
not confused. It's just that I'm so we
you weren't
said
expecting
that. No, I wasn't at all. And thank you, Lauren, as well for correcting me. Job was a free agent. He was with the Eagles before. But we said this is going to be a rebuild over at least 3 seasons for it all to start coming good. Now, I don't know if the draft coming up now is going to be the most important or the one after. I think this draft, this year's draft or next year's draft, is really going to start adding those pieces. But I think the draft afterwards is what's going to complete the roster for Mike Mack. They're going to be, he's had one draft and gone, that's my foundation, but all the missing jigsaw pieces will come in the draft after. But I'll go on, I'll appease you and say yes, it is. It's a very
you don't have to say yes. You can say you can disagree. There'll be someone that agrees. I've got a good explanation for this question for why I agree. But Garry, agree or disagree that this would be the most important draft for 10 years for the Seahawks?
That's a really good question, and it's very difficult to answer, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I mean, you could easily say yes, it is, but at the same time, I'm kind of leaning towards, as Josh said, I think it's going to be a building process. I don't think it's going to be answered in one draft, and if they get this draft right or wrong, I don't think it's going to determine the future, so to speak. I think it's going to set foundations, so I think it's incredibly important. So in that respect, yes, I suppose you could say yes, it is the most important in 10 years. But what after that? I still think that the drafts after that are like really important as well.
Ben?
I'm gonna say no, because I don't think it's a draft where we go after a franchise quarterback. I think whatever draft that is.
And I think you've just stolen Mitch's thunder.
Almost. I will elaborate after. But yeah, carry on.
If it is the draft where we decide to target somebody, then yes, it is the most important draft. But I don't think we're quite there yet with moving on from Geno. He's still got another year or so left, hasn't he? So I don't think it's quite there yet. It'll be an important draft to build those pieces for whoever does become the QB, but I don't think it is this year.
Jonas?
I'd say no as well, because I think the 2026 draft will be the most important one. And just plain and simple, because I wouldn't go this far, but the draft class in 2025 isn't really that good. There is barely any blue chip talent, so you probably have to pick in the top 3 or fringe top 5, and after that it's going to be reaching even then, which says a lot about the draft class. Ben elaborated to the quarterbacks, and so I don't think it's important it's really important, but it isn't the most important, because like you're gonna pick your franchise corner pieces like a quarterback in the 2026 draft, probably onwards even, and but I think it's important because even though the draft class is so thin, John Schneider, if he's still the general manager, jury's still out on that, can really earn his money and his scouting department, because the draft class is so thin across the board, and if he's able to pick out some really good players which are going to help the franchise for years to come, it's really good, because he saw talent where a lot of people didn't see any talent. And so it's 2 sides of the coin, but I say no generally.
Okay, I hear you, boys. He's
going to prove us all wrong now.
Yeah.
No.
Here comes the monologue.
I think everyone. No, I think that much for sure. No, here's where I sit with this. Right, when I look at the wide receiver class for this year coming up, I see it as one of the stronger rooms in the 2025 class. There are some really good players in there. When I look at the quarterback class, I see a couple of candidates that could be really good fits for what we're doing. I see teams likely to trade back for exactly the reasons you've said. They're not going to see high quality picks outside of the top 8, and they're going to look to move back. Trading up into the top 8 with those teams gets us in reach of some really interesting quarterback talents. And if we do spend a first round pick on a quarterback this year, it makes it a crucial year for us, because that will be Mike Mack hanging his hat on his 6-year contract with the Seahawks. He is then committing to, this is the guy for my 6-year tenure. So I think that whether we're taking a wide receiver from this great wide receiver class that we've got this year to replace Tyler Lockett or potentially Metcalf, right? Whether we take that quarterback, whether we do neither of those things and try to rebuild the O-line before then in a subsequent year taking a quarterback, or whether we take a couple of linebackers, because the linebacker crew in this draft as well is quite thick because of the quality players that didn't declare last year. There's a lot of linebackers that are really interesting. So between wide receiver, offensive line, quarterback, and what else have I mentioned? What have I mentioned? Linebackers. Thank you. Just did it. Between those 4 positions, it could be a crucial part of this rebuild, in my opinion, this year. And with people trading back, there can be some serious John Schneider wheeling and dealing to maximize that capital. So I look at it and think we could really, really build something in a year where everyone's looking at these talents and passing them up. We could sweep up a bunch of good scheme fits. That's what I think.
I like it. Before we go any further, I am just going to have a quick word from the sponsor of the pod, Wraith Energy. We've got a few questions that have come in via the YouTube. So thank you everyone for watching. If you are watching and you've not asked a question or made a statement, by all means, pop it in there, because as a round table, we will discuss everything. And some of these that have come in are quite interesting. One of them, I think, mentioning John Schneider. I think we'll get to straight away. But first of all, let's hear from our sponsor, and then we'll be back in less than a minute.
Let's give a big shout out to our sponsor, Wraith Energy. Wraith is a sugar-free energy drink that comes in these handy-dandy little sachets that you've not got to take in a huge can away with you. Simply mix it with half a litre of water, give it a good shake, and you are ready to go. It is sugar-free. It has all the benefits of pretty much every energy drink you'll have, apart from the fact it doesn't cost you a fortune, and they're very, very honest with what they have in there. You have taurine, caffeine, multiple vitamins, no sugar. And for any of you who try sugar-free energy drinks, usually you'll know they're not the best. Wraith, however, I have tried the majority of the flavors now, and I love every single one. If you want to try Wraith, go to wraithEnergy.com, and when you're going to check out, use code 12TALK for 10% off. You'll thank us later. Go Hawks.
There we go. Big thanks to Wraith. Mitch, look at it, in unison as well, sir. It's like we rehearsed that, wasn't it? That actually got me through my 4-hour drive home today as well. I'm so thankful for that.
While we're on the subject of Wraith, do you know whose Wraith turned up this week?
I do, because he messaged me as soon as it got through customs.
Jonas, what's your review? What are you enjoying?
I'm enjoying it a lot because, like you said, I'm. You can taste the sugar-free energy stuff, and I don't drink any coffee, so I'm relying on it every morning. And usually I'm not good with sugar-free stuff because I'm heading straight to the bathroom. I think probably 10 minutes afterwards, so I'll notice. And I told Josh I haven't got any problems with Wraith right now. So I enjoyed it a lot, and definitely recommend it.
See, there you go. We're not just peddling rubbish. We've actually got people on the pod that are trying it now as well.
Not.
So try Wraith. Just go with Wraith.
No snake oil.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a snake oil salesman. Sales is my usual life, mate. But yeah, wraithenergy.com, use code 12talk at checkout, get 10% off. Anything that you buy, anything that comes to the pod, we will be giving 25% of that to the Robin Cancer Trust as well. And we'll hear from them a little bit later. Should we get to some of these questions? We've had some fantastic ones so far. I want to start with actually one of the latest ones, because we were just talking about the draft and his name popped up. So I thought I'd just chuck this in there. Jonas, I'm very sorry this covers your face.
No worries.
It does. I'm really sorry, mate. But from Jay, just peek over. There you go. And you, Ben. There you go. So from Jay Smith, how hot do you think John Schneider's seat is? And this is a burning question on a lot of Seahawks fans' lips, because there's been a lot said. Obviously, sometimes people refer to him as a GM genius for some of the draft picks that he managed to pull out of the bag, the late rounders that come good, and then times when it doesn't all work out, as we all know, being fans of every other sport, they call for your head. So I'm going to start down here with Jonas, and we'll go anti-clockwise. Jonas, how hot do you think John's seat is right now?
I'd say mildly hot, because I think he got himself into a bit of trouble, because he said that interior O-linemen were overdrafted and overvalued. And
what a mistake to make her, eh?
He didn't dig his own grave, but he dug himself into a huge hole. So because when you look at the Seahawks O-line, it's just probably inexcusable, because when you compare it to the rest of the league, and giving that comment, it's just pretty difficult. But on the other hand, it's we all tend to forget that like we said, it isn't an easy year, because Mike McDonald came in January, I think, mid to late January. His coaching staff he didn't have a coaching staff. So I don't even think if Mike McDonald had a lot of say in who he brought in, because I think it was a lot of John Schneider there as well. So they have to gel. And looking back, you mentioned the word draft genius. If you look back into the previous draft classes in 22 and 23, and you look at players like or even 21, you look at players like Charles Cross, K9, Rick Woolen, Devin Witherspoon. Those drafts were a huge hit compared to 5 or 6 years previous, after the Legion of Boom. So I think he still has the ability to work his magic. And if there's a year where he misses, we can tolerate that. But I think he has to show results coming up in the upcoming draft, like we mentioned. And but I don't think he's going to be gone at the end of the season. So there's some pressure, but it's manageable.
Yeah, I agree, Ben.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Jonas just said, but as I say, that it's an adjustment period for John Schneider as well. It's his first time working with a head coach that isn't Pete Carroll, and those two have got to figure out what they want on the field, what sort of players they want to bring in. I think John's great in the draft, and I think he always has been. There's some misses, but everyone has a miss. The only thing I've kind of been disappointed in this year is free agency.
Don't steal my
a lot of what he got in.
Yeah. Gloss over that. Gloss over it.
No. I have to think of something else right now. So no, go ahead. Sorry.
That was kind of where I was going with that.
So hot or not?
I think he's got a bit of a heated seat, but I think it's no hotter than it normally would be for any GM in the league.
Comfortably warm, basically.
Comfortably warm. Yeah, I mean, he's been GM for a while. He knows what he's doing, but he's got to be given that period to adjust as well as the new coaching staff should be as well.
I agree. Garry?
Yeah, I'd say with the fans, I'd say his seat is probably uncomfortably warm because there's quite a few people who are already sort of like making sounds about, perhaps we need to move on. And I tend to agree with Jonas and Ben. I think he's got that adjustment period. He's got a new head coach that he's working with. They've got to build chemistry. They've got to decide what they're going to build moving forward. And I think with his record, I think within the organisation, I'd say it was mildly warm, his seat.
Okay. And Mitch?
Yeah, there's been some really interesting points as we've gone around. I think when you look at the picture of how long Mike Mack has his contract for, I think if the next two if this season doesn't end well and we have another bad season, regardless of how successful the draft is and how free agency acquisitions are, I think he is going to be in a really difficult spot because they're not going to tolerate bad records and abject failures year on year if we're not palpably getting closer to some kind of success, whether it be a division or whether it be a Super Bowl run. So I think it's a hot seat. And if you look at depending on the time span, it's not a hot seat for this season. But if this season ends the way it's going so far and we have another one like it, that seat gets really hot for me.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that. I think if we have another off season where we don't really improve the squad and the free agency players are gone halfway through the year, then yeah, I think John's going to have to be answering a lot of questions, but not this year, next year.
I agree.
Which kind of brings us on to our next one as well when we're talking about the wins and losses. So from Sean Thompson. Sean, thank you very much. And gentlemen, I'm really sorry. I keep covering your face. This is... I feel so bad for doing this. You bring guests on and just cover them up all the time. Right, so from Sean, first of all, love the channel, fellas. Thank you so much. Do you think that the Seahawks beat the 49ers decisively? If the Seahawks beat the 49ers, I've got my glasses on, I still can't read. Beat the 49ers decisively, that it changes the way you look at the rest of the season in terms of playoffs. I don't. It would be a massive coup to beat them, but it's not going to change our playoff fate, I don't think. I don't see this bye week having a complete reset and everything going straight up, because we're still going to be facing the exact same issues with our O-line. We're still going to have the install of the defense, which, as you can see, with Dodson going, is still in a transitional period this season. I think it's not going to have a lot of effect, in my opinion. It'll give Seahawks fans something to cheer out, but apart from that, I don't see it having a massive change on my outlook when it comes to us reaching the playoffs. Mitch, go on. You go first this time, mate.
Yeah, so we've got like a 10% probability of making the playoffs from where we are. I think a win against the 49ers would increase that maybe 6%, which is slightly more than usual for one win, I think. But because they are a divisional rival, I think it's worth a bit more for those probabilities. So for me, getting on a run of wins at this point would do that. It would change the way I'm looking at this season. One win on its own merit, not so much, even if it's against a divisional rival. I'd feel very good about it because we are massively overdue sticking one to them, and to do it in Santa Clara would be brilliant. But no, it wouldn't change an awful lot for me. But like I say, get on a little run. We could start picking up some momentum. Also, the confidence boost for beating the Niners could be exactly what this team needs to kick on with. So it could be really good for us, but it won't change my mindset where we are.
Garry?
Yeah, same. It won't change my mindset. Again, it'd be fantastic if we can beat them, especially down there in Santa Clara. I would absolutely love that. But no, I don't see it. It wouldn't change my mindset at all. I still think if we end with between 7 and 9 wins, I still think that's a good solid start to the Mike McDonald era. So we shall see. Fingers crossed.
Go on, Ben.
Yeah, I think. I mean, outside of the first few games, we've kind of been up and down. One game we do well, one game we don't. So I wouldn't put any trust in a win at the moment, because I think we're still one of the teams that are hit and miss week to week. The one win's not going to really change my mind too much, even if it is against the Niners.
And Jonas.
Yeah, I can agree with Mitch, Garry, and Ben, and yeah, it's would be a huge confidence boost, and also seeing if they do win, you're probably going to see more progress in the defense and probably the offense as well. If they're able to beat him, but I think, I don't want to sound harsh, but I think we have to get rid of these playoff notions, because I don't think, this team probably is able to get to the playoffs. They might creep in with a positive record of 9-8 or something like that, which I don't think is possible. But the question is, if you do get into the playoffs with this team, is it really going to help you if you probably lose out in the first round and just you'll get shown up by some good NFC team, and I don't think it's a good thing for the team, for the development of the team. So I think we have to take a step back from these playoff expectations and just wait out the season, and probably have to endure some losses coming up. But I'm gladly going to see a Niners win, but I don't think so. A win against the Niners, not a Niners win. Yeah, definitely a Niners win.
Don't worry. I was undercover Niners fan on our pod.
No. I won't. I changed my head quite a bit today, but I won't change to a Niners.
Yeah. Everyone missed it. Before we hit record, there were full costume changes and everything. But yeah, I agree with you, Jonas. I think even if we made it to the playoffs, we would get absolutely smoked by one of these legit teams. If the Eagles are coming good now, if we played someone like the Lions, I think the way the Lions are picking up ahead of steam, even with Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions, they can still win a game. That's not something we could say as a team. If Geno threw 5 interceptions in a game, it'd be over. If we don't have, it's not built yet to be able to withstand that sort of adversity. So yeah, I don't think it'd change our fate. It'd be a nice to have, but it wouldn't change our fate.
We did win a game with 3, though, didn't we? Just weirdly, didn't we win one this year with 3 interceptions from Geno? Was it the Falcons? He threw 3. Well, I am. Yeah, I swear we had a game where we threw 3 interceptions. We lost the turnover battle, lost the time in possession battle, but still won the game by quite a large margin. I think it was the Falcons.
I still wouldn't see us doing anything like that in the playoffs or consistently. The next question we've had from Sean, I'm going to leave till the end because I think it's a nice way to cap off the pod. But Mitch, you've got more questions to ask the round table. Go on, our very own Merlin.
I do. No, the one I wanted to ask next is a nice one, because you could give me any answer from 53. Well, actually more than 53, because you could name a coaching staff member. So starting with you, Josh, who has been the biggest disappointment? Individual, coach, player, owner? Pick a name. We're going to do the opposite as well. It's not all going to be negative. We'll do disappointment first and then surprise second. But give me a name that you expected more from this year. Might be easy, actually.
There's a lot for me to mention. As a sports coach, there's a few I could mention there. I'm going to say, and this isn't an indictment on the player, because we all love the player I'm about to mention. And I think a lot of it is down to where he's fitting in this scheme. But Spoon, I've been
Good
disappointed with Spoon. I don't think he's had as much of an impact as he did in his rookie season because he's not bringing that boom that he did. Obviously, he's still hyping all the players up. I would just take Jonas. I would just taking yours. I'm sorry.
No.
I saw the look on
You
your
would have
face
taken
was
my
like,
second,
"You
but I
mother."
He looked at the roster for more players.
But yeah, I just don't think he's had that impact that he had last season, and I think that's because Mike Mack still found the best place to fit him in to have the right impact. We've not seen the big hits, we've not seen a lot of the trash talking. We mentioned a few weeks ago on the pod that I saw, I can't remember what game it was, where it looked like he pulled out of a tackle, and then when someone got up to trash talk him, he looked like he backed away a little bit physically, which was really out of character. So Spoon would be my one.
It was Deebo Samuel. Was it Deebo Samuel he backed off?
Might have been, yeah, against 49ers.
Yes. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Garry?
Tough question. If we did it by position, I would say right guard. That's my most disappointing position.
Low hanging fruit, that mate.
Yeah, but there's two players there. So individual player, I'm going to go
could name
for
a coach or a GM or.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go for a player, just because I thought when we signed this player, I thought, great, we've solved one of our issues. Connor Williams at centre.
That's a great shout.
Disappointing to me. Sad to say, I was really hoping he was going to solidify that position, but well, his snapping certainly seems to.
There's been a historical issue as well. If you look back at some of the stuff in Miami, that was a big issue, especially out the shotgun as well.
Yes.
Now, it might be something we mention later, but there's been a lot of talk about moving him to right guard because he's still equally effective there with run blocking, and you've not got to worry about him like sky high in, like basically punting a ball over Gino's head. But I agree with that one. That it was close between my two. So thank you, Garry.
Ben?
The one that's come to mind for me isn't, and I'm saying this, it's not a hit on the player, because again, I think it's a bit like Josh's one. The player is fantastic. We all think the player's amazing, but I think it's how he's been used this year, and it's K9. In my opinion, he's one of the best running backs in the league, and he could be an absolute weapon for us. But we're not using him. We're not utilizing the run game, especially when it could be something that kind of helps settle the offense if stuff's going wrong, like Connor Williams is punting for the other team and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's a mixture of play calling and the fact that the O-line just isn't getting the necessary movement to create the gaps for him. But I think we're really letting K9 down, because he could be an absolute star.
Like it. Jonas, what's left on your list?
What's left on my list? I'm going to get back to my thunder. So the biggest disappointment for me is the GM John Schneider, because of what he was able to do in free agency. Because if you look at free agency, it's just horrible. Like you sign two linebackers, one has been traded, one has been let go. Then you signed Pharaoh Brown as a blocking tight end, and he's an effector. You signed two safeties in Kayvon Wallace and Rayshon Jenkins. They're both on IR, so I could go on and on and on about it. So it's just you have to. The Seahawks are not in a rebuild, but you have to plug your holes. You do have on the roster in free agency. You have to do a good job in free agency to contend. You have to find some gems, but you also have to invest money. And they invested money in Draymond Jones a couple of years ago, and it hasn't worked out. $51 million. So I think he has to go back to the drawing board there, because if the Seahawks don't hit in free agency, they won't be going into contention in the next couple of years, I think.
How do we miss Draymond out of that equation as well? I think I've spoken too much about Draymond. That's what it is. He's now just one of those like.
I mean, I might have been
PTSD.
I might have gone Draymond. Draymond? No, I'm joking. No, I'm not. No. For me, this was a toss-up. But from what I've got left, 2 lesser-spotted receivers, Noah Fant or Jake Bobo. Either one of them could have been really, really interesting weapons for Grubb, and they just seem massively underutilized. I'll go with Bobo just because we know the whole fan base wants to see more Bobo, and this year we've had less Bobo. Can I? I know this is your pick, but could you amend that then just to being Grubb? Well, you could. If the thing we're saying is that Bobo and Fant aren't being used enough in this offense, then that is an indictment on Grubb as opposed to the players. But that also overlaps with Ben's point about K9 as well.
I was just going to say,
yeah. All right, well, that solves that. Next question. No, I think that's a really interesting group, actually, because we've got offensive line and run game. We've got coordinator not being able to coordinate a game from offense with a bad O-line, poor utilization of a running back, and not spreading the ball around genuine threats that we paid money to. I think when you look at it like that, that is quite a large part of our problem. So, yeah, no, I do think that is something we need to fix. I will also say, we mentioned John Schneider in there and about his free agent acquisitions, but I actually think when you look at who we let go and didn't re-sign versus who we did re-sign, it is a little baffling because D-Lou's gone on and had quite a good year. Who else did we let go? Linebacker to the Dolphins, Jordan Brooks,
Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Wagner. When you look at the linebackers that we signed and admitted we were slow to react when we let them go, and then who we ended up getting and then subsequently releasing, that has to who you let out the door and who you bring in it's equally as important who we let go. Although I will say Colby Parkinson, the untargeted tight end for $10 million a year, looks wildly a mistake on LA's part. On the Rams' part. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we touched on a lot there. Should we brighten the mood by talking about some positive?
Can I not go first on this one though, please? Because I'm still trying to mull over which player I want to do.
I think we owe it to Jonas to have the first shout on the positive surprises. Okay. Well,
I switched my surprise around, and I'll do you a good one. I'll say Geno Smith. And I'll elaborate on that because I'm surprised he's doing that well compared to the O-line he's got, because I looked at at a couple of advanced analytics for our pod we did a few days ago, and if you look at
give a quick plug.
Sorry, yeah.
What's your pod called? For anyone who may speak German, and
yeah, it's the Ballhawks podcast. It's quasi the sister podcast of 12 Talk, because we're the official podcast of the German Seahawks. So yeah, if you want and you're able to listen to the German language, which is quite hard, I'll admit.
I try so hard. I spent 5 years living in the country.
Yeah, you can stop by and have a listen. But no, I think if you look at advanced analytics and success rate at the first read, he's second behind Lamar Jackson. He's I think first in accuracy. He's If he's got a clean pocket, he's not a top 10 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback. If you look at advanced analytics, and I do see where people are coming from, and I wouldn't say mocking Geno, but it's just he's a victim of his own line, because I think the Seahawks are passing the ball 70% of the time right now, and if you know the name Don Coryell, who invented the air raid offense, I don't think even he, which the air raid offense is a huge, it's relying on passing a lot. And I don't think even Don Coryell would be okay with that, having his team throwing 70% of the time. He wants a running game, and Gino wants a running game. I don't think it's ideal, but looking at the circumstances and how Gino's playing, I think, it's a pleasant surprise.
Nice. That's a good
First
one.
vote for Gino. Ben.
It is, yeah. Ben, yeah.
Been going back and forth on a couple here whilst I was listening to Jonas there. I'm gonna keep on the offensive side of stuff because I was being negative towards Grubb a second ago, so I'll give him some praise. I think what we've done this year, and as it's kind of building, especially the last game, how we've been getting JSN more into the offense compared to his rookie year. I think last game showed exactly what he can do if he's trusted. Obviously, DK wasn't playing, so he took on more of a role. But I've since we picked him from Ohio State, I mean, when I watched him at Ohio State, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I think he's probably the most natural receiver we've got on the team. I think in his rookie year, we massively underutilized him. We weren't making him run the routes that he should be running. We weren't giving him the route tree that he's got. And this year, we're starting to unbox him. And I think he's, especially, I'm hoping, second half of the season, he carries on like he did last game.
Nice.
Can I slide in here for a moment? Have you seen the podcast with Deebo Samuel and Garrett Wilson during the week, where
No.
Deebo asked Garrett Wilson, coming out of Ohio State, who was the best receiver in his view, and Wilson said, without a doubt, without even hesitating, he said he played with Olave himself, Marvin Harrison, and JSN, and he picked JSN because he said he's the most natural, most fluid receiver he ever played with. And I think this says a lot.
Yeah. That's been said before as well, I think, by that group.
Yeah.
They unanimously agreed that when in the year he was coming
which
out,
underlines
so-
how good JSN can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think just before, I think it was the year before we drafted him, there was the Rose Bowl game that Ohio State played in. I can't remember who they played against. It might have been Utah.
famous
He
game,
was, he was unstoppable. And ever since that game, I was like, I need him. And he's here.
Yeah, unfortunately,
He's
that Utah secondary was decimated in that game. So, and he took full
but his
advantage,
stats
though.
looks great.
Still fair due to him. yeah, but he took full advantage of it. Despite the fact that it, wasn't their starting secondary, he just obliterated them.
Garry, lead yourself into your pick.
I'm going to go defense because I like people who smash people.
My guy.
And I missed that. Yes.
There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
And
And anybody who brings the boom, yes, please. So for me, and it was very, very good to see. He's dropped off a bit in the last few games, he's made a couple of mistakes, but I still think the improvement that he's made from last season, where he's almost invisible, Derek Hall. I think he's been vastly improved from what we did with him in the first season. He sets the edge, and yeah, he certainly brings the boom when he brings it. I mean, I still love watching that pre-season game where he just obliterates that tight end who's running across and smash.
Jesus.
That gets in there. Thank you. That's what I want.
Love that. Yeah, Hall's a fun one. The things that he's made, the errors he's making are more things that need dialing back. I'd much rather need to turn it down a bit than try to encourage guys to be more aggressive. If it's not in your nature to be aggressive, it's far harder to get that out of someone than it is to just dial it back a bit. So that's a great problem to have with Hall. Who doesn't want an aggressive, punishing edge rusher? That's a blessing that we've got.
Please.
So someone. Go on, Josh.
I was going to say, if you let me do my one very quickly, I've just got to go and attend to a 4-year-old very quickly. But my one is, and I've given him a lot of grief over the last couple of seasons, but Kobe Bryant is making one of those safety roles his own. I don't think the way Jenkins is on IR, I don't know if he's going to come back and play this season. Kayvon Wallace, I'm still not convinced, but I think Kobe is really making that safety position his own. He's a very cerebral player. He knows the game. He's fantastic at reading coverages. He can lay the boom as well when he needs to. As long as he doesn't go anywhere near the corner position, I'm more than happy. But Kobe Bryant is my pick here. I'll be back very, very shortly, gentlemen. I have a child that is in need of me. So,
okay.
Mitch, you have the com.
Thanks, mate. So my pick here is going to be Tyrese Knight, and I think what I've loved about Tyrese Knight is because of who we picked up in free agency, we all kind of thought, okay, well, that's a project. That's a guy that's coming in to learn behind a defensive-minded head coach who's seen something in him that he likes, and now we've got a guy who can grow into a role and there's no pressure on him to start. Well, he's done so well in the limited snaps he's had that we've removed both starting linebackers, safe in the knowledge that he can do a job. And what we've seen from him is aggressiveness, technique, and great instincts. Those are three really good foundational things to have as a linebacker. And so much of good linebacker play starts with solid instincts. KJ Wright was the master of it. I think we all talk about Bobby Wagner being, the GOAT for us and possibly one of the league's best ever. But actually, KJ Wright was blowing up screens and getting in the backfield and mixing it in coverage, and he was just a step ahead all the time. Tyrese Knight is coming into the league in those first 3 games that we played. He was already displaying stellar instincts and technique in the tackle, and that is a great start. But that is not what I expected from what I thought was a project. That's my nice surprise.
I think people
props to Mike McDonald for that, because he picked him, didn't he? So hopefully that bodes well for the future.
Do you remember his comment on Tyrese Knight when they were interviewed about the day's picks? He made a really interesting comment about Tyrese Knight, and it wasn't what I expected to hear from what I'd seen of Knight. Does anyone remember that comment? He talked about his eyes, and not that they looked nice. He just said he's got brilliant eyes. Like he doesn't give anything away, but he spots things before other people would see them. He just made a really good point about him reading the game extremely well from a defensive standpoint and analyzing things really quickly. And I guess that ties into the instincts we're seeing. So that's what Mike Mack said, and I think it's really coming true.
I think he led college football in tackles as well.
He did, yeah. Which that's always a stat line.
Yeah,
you still have to make them though, and it makes you very good at it if you have all that practice. The technique is honed for him, I think, because of being exposed at that second level. But yeah, he did. He had a lot of tackles to make. So obviously Josh can chime in on this when he comes back. I'm sure he won't be too long, but we're going to talk about our projected record at this point. So we're going to start with you, Jonas. Where do you see us ending up record wise? What do you think is realistic?
What is realistic? Good question. I think the Seahawks are going to get a 7-10 record. I think they're going to win against the Jets. They're going to win against the Bears, and they're going to take one game away from the Cardinals. And I think they're losing out the rest of the way, sadly.
Okay. Very calculated. Ben?
I mean, I could very easily see that, what Jonas is saying. I think we might sneak another win, maybe end with eight wins. That's about where I'd put us. Maybe, I'm trying to think, I'm just looking through who we've got as to who we could get that other win against. Maybe we get some revenge on the Rams last week of the season. Who knows?
That'd be good.
End on a high note.
Garry?
I'm going to stick with my preseason. I think it's going to be between 7 and 9 games. Just depending on where how well they play in certain games. You think about it, all the games, we haven't really been blown out by anybody today. We've lost a couple of games,
except against the Bills.
We always, apart from the Bills, perhaps. But other than that, we've always been competitive. Now, the Lions didn't blow us away. We were still in that game, really.
Well, we were one drive behind, weren't we? Because of and we were playing catch up because of that one drive. If it wasn't for that, we were going toe to toe, I think, in that game.
Yeah, which I think at the time surprised most of us, because I don't think we expected that.
Expected it,
and we played well. So again, that's one of those games where it was like, okay, you can see something, potentially building. But yeah, I think between 7 and 9, and I still think that's a pretty darn good start to the Mike McDonald era if we end up with 7+ wins.
Yeah, and I think going 3-0 as a head coach at the beginning of the year, I know the teams we were beating were a little bit beaten up at the time, but still starting as a head coach in the NFL with 3 wins, no losses. I know it has gone downhill a lot and rapidly since, but that's a really cool start, and I think that makes him. Did that make him the most successful debut head coach in the NFL through the first 3 games? I think no one ever did that, which is a cool.
Yeah, I believe he did.
Yeah. So we have to remember that these are his first wins and his first losses and his first losing streaks, and his first divisional matchups. They're his firsts every time. So there's an awful lot to learn there. I agree with all of you. I think somewhere between 7 and 9 is about right. When Jonas talks about the ones he thinks we're going to win, he convinced me immediately. I completely agree. And when Ben talked about maybe winning one of the others, I again was convinced, because all season long we've done weird things in a very Seahawky way, to be honest. And I think if you look back to last year, we were looking at a stretch of games which was like the Niners, the Eagles, the Niners again, the Cowboys in there. We had a really ridiculous stretch, and we looked great against the Cowboys. We beat the Eagles. So even when we looked at it and gone, well, that's 4 losses, we nearly went 2-2 in that spell. So we're never out of stuff. We'll find a really difficult game to look good in, and we'll look average against the Bears or the Jets or something. So this is the franchise we follow, boys. They do it to us every year. I don't know why we're surprised.
Speaking of the surprises, have you seen the game day statuses of the Seahawks? It just came in with Bob Condotta. So Abe and DK are going to play, and the Seahawks will be without Noah Fant, Brady Russell, and Connor Williams.
Oh.
Yeah, I see Connor Williams hasn't been training because of personal reasons.
Connor Williams has been away from the team for about a week because of personal issues, and no one really knows what's going on, and he's not going to play on Sunday. So it's going to be Oliver Teamy or Jalen Sandell.
Interesting. It'd be interesting to see how they perform.
Well, do we all think that Jalen Sandell is going to play then? Because I think so far he's been the preferred stand-in.
I think so, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Quite excited.
Yeah, likewise. But especially after saying, I've been disappointed with Connor Williams. So it'll be interesting to see whoever starts, whether it's Oluwatimi or Sundell, how they perform, I'd just be very interested.
Oluwatimi's listed as a backup on the unofficial depth chart, so whether internally that's changed, I don't know.
Probably.
No. Don't know. We will see.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. One player I was thinking about mentioning earlier when we were talking about surprises, I was actually surprised how much we went to Tyler Lockett so far this year. I mean, last year targets that were going to Bobo and to Parkinson and, you know, players like that. We seem to be going to Lockett like it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He seems every bit as integral to this team as he did 4 years back, which does surprise me. And obviously, congratulations to Tyler, because him and his wife, they're expecting their first child in the off season. How does that bit of news make you feel about the possibility of him hanging up the cleats at the end of the year? Do you think that life-changing moment at a bit of a crossroads? What do we think? Do we think that makes it even more likely that seems a good point to call it a day?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I said before the season, I think it's going to be Tyler's last, and I know, or I'm pretty sure, he wants to retire as Seahawk, and that's the reason. That's even more so a reason of him going to retire, because he's a team player. He's always been a team player, and I think I think it's not often in the NFL that players do look at their cap impact, and I think Tyler's going to look at the cap impact as well, and seeing that he's not going to help the team if he sticks around. I know, or he knows that he's got a good succession plan with DK and JSN. Obviously, you have to look at DK if he sticks around. But it's even also a reason. But on the other hand, what you said, Mitch, about the Seahawks going to Tyler Lockett, I think it's even more a detriment towards the O-line, because Gino knows he's got reliable targets in DK and Tyler Lockett, and he's going to them because they're gonna catch the balls, and if he was able to get more time behind the O-line, he'd be able to hit like Jake Bobo and even Cody White now, and even the tight ends. But I think Tyler still is and always was his security blanket, and he's going to for his secure ball. So that's a good thing to see, that Tyler's getting the balls and still catching footballs. I think I mentioned it during the Rams game, that they have to call the right end zone or right corner of the end zone like the Lockett corner, because he always seems to catch balls there, like always the same technique over the shoulder, just dropping into the bucket and catching them. And good to see for Tyler, but I think he's gone after the season.
Yeah. What do you think, Garry? Do you think that's the perfect time for him to call it?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely perfect time. I think, same as Jonas, I think most people think this was probably his last season anyway, mainly because of the salary cap and excuse me, and the fact that he wants to finish a Seahawk. So I don't think that they were going to potentially re-sign him unless he restructured it in some way. Now that he's announced that, I'm thinking, and he's got his own interests outside of football. He's a real estate guy, so he doesn't need to get his body smashed up, and he gets a lot of flack for going down before contact, but I don't, to be fair, I don't blame him. You're in your 30s, you want your health later on in life, you want to enjoy life. He's still a quality player. I don't care what anyone says. He's still one of the best wide receivers that this franchise has had. And, you know, and I'm thinking of people like Steve Largent, because I'm old enough to remember Steve Largent playing. So Steve Largent was just unbelievable. But Lockett is in, you know, that kind of hemisphere, stratosphere, whatever you want to call it. I think he's that type of player. Totally underrated by a lot of people outside of Seattle, I think.
Nice. Ben, I expect you agree with a lot of that, but, you know, feel free to tell us who's going to get an extension or get traded.
I agree. I mean, I'd be absolutely good if it is Tyler last season. I think he's a true Seahawk. He's been fantastic for ages. Kind of taken over the baton from Doug Baldwin, I get a little bit, and being that under the radar receiver for us that can do everything. Never seems to drop the ball. I'd be absolutely good, but I could fully see it if it happened.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, that succession plan is there.
Yeah, there's a blend of the contract situation, the succession plan, and it looking like life is beginning for him as well. The family stuff, the new career, like it's almost like he gets to step out of one career straight into the next and go fully into it. So I'm sure there's excitement for him to be unleashed upon the new life as well. So I think it just makes an awful lot of sense. But as a Seahawks fan, I dread the day that we don't have Lockett, because there's times in the draft process where I've gone, this guy can do the things that Lockett does, or something that he can. Not many players that you look at as prospects, you go, he can do all of the Lockett stuff. Tyler Lockett's toolkit has been really unique to him, and we've successfully tapped into a lot of it. When you think about those moon balls from Russ when we were doing, you know, back then, we really maximized him then. When you look at how we use him on third downs and how often we see him with a clutch catch, you know, just beyond the sticks, like the stuff in the red zone, you know, the toe taps, like we've maximized every. I'll go even as far as special teams. His introduction to the league, he just immediately lit it up. Everything we could have extracted from Tyler Lockett in his career so far, we have. That's incredibly rare. We don't do that. We don't do that. We haven't done that with DK. We've never maximized him. We're not doing it with Ken. We've already talked about that. We're not doing it with Fant. You know, it is so rare that we maximize a player's talent on offense, and we really, truly have with him. So not a surprise that the fans love him as much as they do, for me. Let's get another question in. Jay has asked an interesting one about whether or not to extend Gino. I'll just pop it on the screen. Sorry, Ben and Jonas. So extend Gino or not, he'll tip his hand. I don't think Gino's replacement is on the roster or will be available in the draft. So thank you, Jay, for the question. Start with you, Garry. If you were John Schneider and Mike McDonald, say the think tank, you know, the war room, weren't convinced by what we've got on the roster outside of Gino and what's coming up in the draft, do you feel confident enough in what you've seen from Gino to give him another 2 years?
It's
a tough one.
It's a good question. Yeah, it is, because I mean, we don't need to extend him at the moment. Is the first answer, because he's
one more year
after
after this, right?
Next season. Yeah. So do you just keep him on his current contract and then see at the end of next season? I mean, after this season so far, I'm like, and I think with the way the Seahawks have played it in the past, I don't see them extending him at the end of this season anyway. I think they'll probably review it next year, and I think, to me, that kind of makes sense. We see where we are and where he is, and obviously they'll have a better idea of to what they're going to be doing. If there's somebody who they're going to be looking at potentially in this draft or the next draft, I don't know. So for me, I wouldn't extend him currently, no.
Ben?
It's a tricky one. I'd go with what Jay said in his question. I don't think we'll find an improvement next year. There's not. they're not going to be out there for us to draft, and they're not going to be out there in free agency for us that we can afford. So, I mean, in my eyes, Gino's definitely QB1 next year. And then, obviously, it's his contract year. I'd hold off on the extension, as Garry said. Whether Gino likes that or not, I don't know. But for the benefit of team building, I think it's a decision for next year, not this year. That.
Jonas?
Gonna switch it around and say they're all going to 100% extend him because he carries a $38.5 million cap hit, and they can't handle that going into the season, into next season, if they want to build a roster. So they have to extend him, and I'm pretty confident that Gino's going to be the quarterback for the Seahawks. I think the next couple of years, because like Jay said, I don't, and like Ben said and Garry said, I don't think there's a free agent lurking around the corner who's going to replace Gino. I don't think there's quite a talent in the quarterback class who's going to replace him immediately. I think if they do draft a quarterback, because John Schneider spoke glowingly about Quinn Ewers a couple of years ago, I think I can see him going for Quinn Ewers if John has his way. But I don't think they're going to start him right away because of the O-line, obviously. And I think with John coming out of the Green Bay school of thought about GMs, I think it's probably safer to sit a rookie quarterback for maybe 2 to 3 years, like they did with Jordan Love, and then play him. And the question I always come back to right now is who do we want to put behind the Seahawks O-line at quarterback, and who's going to play better than Gino right now behind this kind of O-line? Yeah, you can say probably Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, but you won't get them. And even if you put Matt Stafford behind it, the Seahawks O-line or Brock Purdy, I don't think they're not going to hold a candle to Gino. So we're lucky to have him, and they're going to extend him because of the reasons I mentioned.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think the point I would make is how many first-round pick quarterbacks taken over the last 2 years would start over Geno Smith? And I think outside of CJ Stroud,
Connor Williams has retired.
Really?
Yes.
Explains why he's not been there. Not training.
Wow.
Ian Rappaport has just confirmed it.
Well, that's a bolt out of the blue, isn't it? Didn't see that coming, did we?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation topic. Yeah, sorry, just to finish up.
Sorry, Mitch.
No, I'll finish and we'll move on. Yeah, I just think there haven't been many first-round picks that have outperformed Gino outside of CJ Stroud over the last 2 years. So expecting to be able to draft one and have him replace Gino as the starter is highly improbable. Possible, but highly improbable. So I would think that maybe an extra year onto Gino's current deal, or a restructure, because he's getting paid an awful lot next year. Maybe a restructure and add a year on, draft a quarterback. Maybe that's a nice succession plan. So, Connor Williams, with our recent history of cutting free agent signings that weren't working out, do we think there's any level of possibility that the leaving camp this week was possibly due to tough conversations with John Schneider? Maybe it was floated that he was going to be cut and he's left the camp and then instead said, well, I don't really fancy doing this all again. You know, he's recovered from injury and signed with the new team. Maybe he doesn't want to do it again. Maybe. Do we think that's possible? I mean, my brain's probably making more of that than it is. But we've done it this week with other players.
Yeah.
I think it's highly possible because I think they also there was discussion that they were going to potentially move him to right guard. So I wonder if that's part of the conversation as well. And I know he doesn't really want to play guard. He's always wanted to play centre. So if that was part of the conversation as well, I don't think. I mean, again, we don't know, but I mean, we're just speculating. Let's just say that they weren't going to cut him, but they said, right, we want to move you to right guard, and we're going to put somebody else in, whoever, at centre. I think, perhaps that's reason enough, or it might have been, as you say, they said, right, potentially we're looking at cutting you. I think it might be something to do with the fact that they were potentially looking at shoring up the right guard side and wanting to move him there and then start somebody else at centre. And I don't think he was particularly happy with that from, by all accounts, and hence why he's retired. I again, it's pure speculation.
Well, part of the reason he chose the Seahawks when he had multiple offers was that we told him he'd be starting at centre.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
to move the goalpost and tell him he's playing a different position, maybe he went, do you know what? I'll go away and think about it. Let me think about it. He's gone away for the week and he's gone, you know what, if you really want me at guard, I'm going to call that a career. Because let's not forget, he's coming off a serious injury too. Like, getting himself back and playing the position he wanted, a new place to play, some investment in him, and then if we've done that and told him we need him to move, call it a career.
Bad now after earlier in the pod saying he was my disappointment, and now he's retired.
He's watching. He's watching the show, and you've done this.
It's a big decision to retire there as well.
And
Dodson got cut. Well, I was potentially going to get cut, and he's decided to go into free agency. Connor Williams is 27 years old. No. It's not like he's going on. I mean, the life of an O-lineman is probably shorter than some positions, but 27 to say, right, that's it. I'm not even going to consider going to another team. So, there's clearly something else, I think, a bit deeper going on there.
Well, I hope
to do with maybe injuries.
Yeah, what I really hope isn't the case. Sorry, Jonas, I'll just say this quickly.
No worries.
We'll come down to you. What I really hope isn't the case is that whatever, they say, it's a family reasons and whatnot. I really hope that he's not lost someone really close to him, and it's just made him reevaluate, what's important, and just called it a career because something horrific has happened. I really hope, for the sake of him and his family, that that's not the case, because I think that would be the worst possible thing. I don't know, Jonas, did you have anything else to add to this?
Just two things, because I which is a surprise to me. I just scrolled through an article here. He hasn't been playing that badly, I have to say, because I think that's even more detriment to the O-line, because he had to handle other stuff on the O-line as a center. He only allowed 11 pressures on 430 pass blocking snaps, and he had a 71.0 run blocking grade out of 30 centers. He's been 10th, so he wasn't playing that badly. And I was scrolling through Twitter, and Mike McDonald said at the press conference that Olu's going to start at center.
Wow, okay, that's interesting. Whoever it was going to be interesting, actually, whether it was Sundell or Oluwatimi. I just thought I would have been happy either way, just to see what we've got, really. Yeah, damn, I'm disappointed, like you, Garry, because I saw a Pro Bowl, quality center as the beginning of, and again, to Ben's point, the age he was at. If he got through this year impressed and we tied him down to a new contract, that could have been the nucleus of a new high quality O-line. Instead, it's a half season flash in the pan with a couple of highlight reel snaps to the halfway line. So it's and two of them, I think both of them in the red zone, weren't they both red zone snapping errors as well? I'm pretty sure they were.
in within like 5 yards of the goal line.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that's going to be a lot of what we remember about him. But he's obviously a far better player than what we got to see.
Yeah.
Really, so that's a shame.
Yeah, I'd say outside of the snapping, he wasn't the big issue in the O-line.
No, and I do think as well, when you've got so many players chopping and changing on that starting O-line, and so much mediocrity in terms of the level of performance, being a star sometimes on an average line, it can drag you down to the same level. When everyone's getting beaten and you're getting dragged and you can't rely on the people on either side of you, I think that inevitably does degrade. Well, it definitely damages your own grades, because sometimes you'll get beaten because someone else got beaten, or the pocket collapsed and something's attributed to you. But in reality, if the guard on the right of you or the left of you had made their block, you'd have been sitting pretty with one person. You ended up with two. So I think he did well considering the level of change on that line and the level of performance as well. Right, we need to run. I don't usually do this. This is usually Josh, but I'm going to very quickly run the Robin Cancer Trust video, because we've done our Wraith ad, haven't we? But we've not done our Robin Cancer Trust. So let me just run this, and we'll crack on.
I want to take a minute just to introduce you our charity partner for the pod, the Robin Cancer Trust. The Robin Cancer Trust is the UK's germ cell cancer community. For those who don't know what germ cell cancer is, that is testicular and ovarian cancer, and the RCT was set up following the family tragedy, which sadly saw them lose their son and brother to germ cell cancer. Germ cell cancer is something that can affect anyone at any time, and the RCT, Robin Cancer Trust, do a fantastic job creating awareness through the various campaigns like Talking Bollocks and Not Overreacting. If you or a member of your family have been affected or think you may be affected by it, please visit their website, therobincancertrust.org, to see how you can spot the signs, how you can manage it, and become part of the community. And if you'd like to help fundraise or give anything to them, by all means, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic is what Josh means to finish that with. We do need to re-record that, I think. Yeah, so I'm going to very quickly rattle through a couple of bits that have come in the comments. We'll look to wrap up. We don't usually run much longer than an hour, and we've rabbited on for nearly 2, so we will wrap up shortly. But big shout out to Jay Smith, who has come in with some really good questions, and also broke the news to us there about Connor Williams. But I'm not sure if that came in before Jonas did it. So Jonas, did you see that in the chat before, or did you?
I saw it in the chat, and then I decided to check out Twitter and saw the tweet from Rappaport. So yeah,
there you go. Credit to Jay then in that case.
Definitely.
In fact, a lot of these questions we did as we ran. So anything you guys want to bring up? Is there anything that's come up so far this year that you think has been a really key part of our first half that merits being brought up at this point? Perhaps just how plagued with injury we've been. I mean, Nwosu has been tragically plagued, and he was such a key part. When we lost him last year, we looked a different team. We haven't had him at all this year. So anyone else you want to mention? I mean, Abe Lucas as well. We know we're a better team when he's out there. We've lost our first round draft pick. Sorry, come on, Ben. Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll get Abe Lucas back this week. I think Mike Mack said in that press conference where he mentioned Connor Williams that he's going to be playing, but he'll probably be on a snap count, I'd imagine. Be interested to see what ability he's still got left in him. I know we've not had too much news about what that knee injury is, but as far as I'm aware, it's nerve issues, which are never good, especially at that position.
Yeah.
Mitch spoke about injuries. I think we have to mention George Fant, who I think played 3 snaps at most, probably, and went on IR and still is not going to play. And I think he's gone back to IR as well, or didn't
He has,
Yes.
yeah. Three snaps, and one of them was his knee. I think if you remember, it was, and it felt awful at the time because I was so high on the quality of the caliber of our backup, and it lasted less than a first drive. So it reminded me a little bit of Jamal Adams coming back from injury, and then the first wasn't it Russell Wilson as well? He got in, he was bearing down on Russell Wilson, and then tore.
His quad.
Yeah, it's a very, very cruel sport, isn't it? It really is. Well, I think we can wrap it up here, guys. To be honest, I think we've chewed the fat on all of the key stuff that we've been happy about, what we want to see more of, where we see us ending up at the end of the season, our projections. We've touched on our draft class. If anyone's come in halfway through, definitely watch it back. We've touched on some really good stuff, and we've had a real mix of opinions on things too, so it's been superb. Anyone watching that hasn't subscribed on YouTube, definitely go and do that. We'd absolutely love to pick up a few more subscribers on YouTube. Follow us on X as well. The Discord is in the comments. Everyone here present today is an upstanding member of our Discord and is a regular contributor to our community there. So definitely come and be a part of it. People who've been in the comments, like Jay and Sean today, definitely come and join us in Discord. We'd absolutely love to have you. In fact, one of them just joined right now. There you go. If you weren't that person, be that person and come and join us. But thank you everyone for coming on. I mean, we'll look to do this again, maybe in a season review, maybe in the run up to the draft as well. It'd be really cool to get you all back on and a few other guys. Maybe get Bryce in here next time as well. But I think we can round it up with a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. And I'm going to run the outro. Here we go. Or not. Love a blooper.